Hey everyone, welcome back to another tier list. Today I'm going to be doing the films of the legendary director Stanley Kubrick. So I looked back through my tier list that I've done previously and I realized I hadn't actually done the films of this director yet, so that's pretty surprising considering he's one of the best directors out there. So I have seen all of his films. I own most of them on Blu-ray. He is one of my favorite directors too, and so we'll just get straight into it. He's got many films that are considered like all-timers pretty much for their decade as well, like in the 60s, 70s and 80s, pretty much on through his entire career. So most of these films are pretty well known. So starting off, we have 2001: A Space Odyssey. This is a very famous movie. Most people know this film as soon as you see any visuals from it, just because of how striking it was for the time it was made. It came out like a decade before Star Wars even, and Alien. And managed to make space look so realistic and really cool for a film that came out in 1968. And I think that's the best thing the film has going for it, is its visuals. I'm going to put it in the A tier. It's not an S tier film for me. A lot of people will put it in the S tier. I think it's a bit slow and it drags quite a bit. I don't have a problem with longer films, but this movie, it definitely drags a little bit, mostly in the later half of the film. I actually enjoy the first part the most, where it focuses on the man going to the moon and his trip, because that's really interesting and really cool, and it kind of keeps up a nice pace. But then when we get to the main bulk of the film and we focus on the two main characters and the robot, it kind of slows down a lot. And it's a good movie still, but I just think it slows down too much in that later half of the film. Especially for a modern audience. But that being said, Alien is one of my favorite movies, and that's quite a slow film too. But I just think this film kind of could have maybe trimmed a bit here and there, or just sped up certain scenes to make it a bit more involving or engaging in that second half. Barry Lyndon, however, is one of my favorite Kubrick films. I'm going to put it in the S tier. And this is one that's longer. It's like over 3 hours long. I think it might be his longest film actually. And it's an excellent period piece drama film about a character who's not very likable. It pretty much just follows his life from being a poor person to someone of nobility, but he kind of got there in all the wrong ways because he's very sleazy and he's just trying to climb the social ladder, and lie about everything pretty much his whole way up. So he's not a very likable character, but it is a very good movie. I really enjoyed the film. I've only seen it once. I do own it though as part of the Kubrick collection that I have. So I always plan on rewatching it at some point. I love the music. Is probably the thing I like. One of the things I like the most about the film is the classical music and soundtrack they used for the film, because it's all very memorable and interesting songs, and I've listened to the soundtrack a lot since watching the movie, and that's one of the main things that stuck with me about this one. And yes, it is a long film, it is slow, and it does drag a little bit in certain areas, but overall I think it's a fantastic movie, and it's very engaging and kind of keeps you interested, even though this character is very unlikable in a lot of the things that he does and says, and obviously where his priorities lie and stuff. But it's a very good movie, and it's, I think, one of the more underrated Kubrick films as well. Next we have one that's very well known, and that's A Clockwork Orange. This is another one that'll go in the A tier for me. Again, a lot of people would put these in the S tier. I don't love them as much. I do like them a lot though. I think A Clockwork Orange is a very bizarre, out there kind of quirky film, and I like it for that reason. I think it's very unique, and there's not really another movie like it. It has a real interesting tone and style and atmosphere to it, as do a lot of his films. And yeah, there's a lot to like about it. It's not perfect in my opinion, but like Barry Lyndon, I also really like the soundtrack. I also really like the characters, even though they're quite despicable as well. And so, yeah, it's just a very unique and bizarre film, especially for the era. I think it came out in like the early 70s, and I don't know if many films were kind of doing what this movie did at the time. Yeah, so I think it was a bit ahead of its time, to be honest, as well, and that's probably another reason why it has remained such a classic. But yeah, that's a solid film that I also have to go back and rewatch at some point. Probably one of the most divisive opinions will be this next one. I'm going to put Dr. Strangelove in the C tier. I'm not a fan of it, really. It's a satirical war comedy that came out in the early 60s, and a lot of its humor relies on, I think, knowledge of certain wars and government policies and politics of American politics at the time. And so obviously that all went straight over my head because I don't know anything about that. So I think the audience that this is for obviously would have been when it came out, and the people at the time in America especially would have understood a lot more about the humor and the satire that was going on. And so as a modern audience member from Australia, I can't really relate or understand a lot of what the humor is trying to do in this film. And so it's never really jived with me. I've watched it multiple times to kind of see if I'd like it again, but I still don't. There's a lot I do admire. I think the visuals look good. Obviously, it's a Kubrick film, so the movie's going to look good. The performances are solid, but the film overall just doesn't do anything for me, really. Yeah, it's just so it was a bit disappointing in that area, but that is probably the hot take of this list, I'd say. Or this next one might be as well. Eyes Wide Shut is an S-tier film for me. I really like it. A lot of people put this one high and a lot of people put it low. It seems to be one that bounces around a lot more, whereas films like 2001 and Clockwork Orange and The Shining are always kind of at the top. Yeah, Eyes Wide Shut seems to be all over the place on other lists that I've seen anyway. But it's kind of like, it was his final film and it's like an erotic thriller. It's really bizarre. It's a long film, but it really has this contemplative kind of undertone to it that's got like a horror vibe, psychological horror vibe to it as well. And it's in the music and it's in the visuals and the masks and just the characters, and they're contemplating and just watching them think, and like their memories that they're going back over, and we see the flashbacks to them. Following Tom Cruise around through most of this film, it's interesting because a lot of the movie is just following him walking down streets at night and things like that. And it's just following his journey as a character. And it sounds kind of boring, but it's really interesting to just watch with that music in the background and the visuals around it. Because it's set in New York, but I think it was filmed in England, so they built these sets to make it look like New York. So he's walking around, well, it looks like an empty New York, but it's actually just a set in England. But yeah, it was a good film. Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman were married at the time. They did a few films together. But yeah, it's really solid. I really like this movie, and I think it's mainly due to the atmosphere and just the creepy off tone to the film that kind of makes it feel like a real horror thriller film to me anyway. So yeah, I think it's pretty underrated and that it's quite good, especially for his final film. So Full Metal Jacket is another one that I think it's good. I'm going to put this in the B tier. A lot of people would put it higher. I think it's very good. There's a lot of war films I like a lot more than this film though. This film's kind of separated into two parts. Most people always just focus on I think it's the first half where they're just in like with the drill sergeant and everything like that, and the second half is when they're actually off in the war. Both sections I think are good and solid, but neither of them do that much for me. There's some good humour there's some interesting characters, some funny dialogue, but the movie doesn't really appeal to me that much. If I'm going to watch a war film from that era in the 80s, I'll go to Platoon or Casualties of War, something like that, or even back further to like Apocalypse Now, where it's more the Vietnam War kind of stuff. But yeah, this movie just didn't do a whole lot for me. I still like it and enjoyed it for what it was, but like I said, I think most people would rank it higher than me, but it's still a solid film. Next we have my personal favourite, and that's The Shining. This is straight up one of the best horror movies ever made, and my favourite Kubrick film easily. It's based off of the Stephen King book, obviously. It stars Jack Nicholson, who's giving a really wacky, way out there performance, but it really works for the film. The visuals in this movie are just incredible. Like the Overlook Hotel looks amazing. The maze-like structure of it on the inside is really cool. And just what they were able to do with that to kind of give this unsettling, off-kilter vibe to the hotel. It just has this eerie atmosphere of emptiness, almost like it's a backrooms level or something, or just, I don't know what the word is, like liminal kind of. It has a liminal space kind of vibe to it, which hasn't really been captured in many other films that I can even think of. It has a really terrifying soundtrack. It has horrifying performances. Really scary, creepy, dreamlike visuals throughout the film, and it's just one of the great horror films. Yeah, can't say enough about that movie, and it really grew on me over time as well. I think the first time I watched it I was quite young and didn't really like it because I didn't understand. I think I was expecting something different, but over time, rewatching it multiple times, I've really come to love it more and more each time I watch it. So Killer's Kiss is one of his really early films. I think it was only his second film. And it kind of feels like a little bit of a Hitchcock film, like he was trying to do a Hitchcock-style movie. It came out back in the mid-50s. It's only very short. It's just over an hour long. I'm going to put it in the C tier. I've got it on Blu-ray because it came on the special features of The Killing, so that's the only reason I have it. But I remember watching it and enjoying it, just think it was okay. A nice, quick, easy hour is not long, so it was good to get it for free and to be able to watch it and have it only be an hour. It's not anything amazing, but it was good, and it's out of all of his films, it definitely gave the most Hitchcock kind of vibe, I think, being like about a killer and it's a thriller and everything. So yeah, it worked as far as that goes, but it wasn't anything amazing. Lolita is another film he did in the 60s. I think it's solid. I think it's a B tier film. I've only watched it once. I think it's a bit over long. I think it goes for like 2.5 to 3 hours, somewhere in there, and I think it's a bit too long. I like that it's still black and white though. That's cool. And I can't remember a whole lot about it because I watched it once and it was probably 10 years ago, but I do remember liking it. But yeah, the characters are pretty despicable again, this main character that it focuses on. But yeah, I mean, it was a decent film. I just think my main problem with it was the length. I think it could have been trimmed a bit. Paths of Glory is one of the first early great Kubrick films. This is an S tier movie for me. Stars Kirk Douglas, and it's a fantastic war film. And again, it's only like 80 minutes long or something like that, but it's an excellent, excellent war film. Anti-war film, I should say, and Kirk Douglas is great in the movie. The visuals are great. It's a very quick, snappy, kind of fast film. In the 50s, his movies were really quite short and quick, and then in the 60s and further on, they became longer and more contemplative and very slow-paced. But I think he did really, really well with this movie. Most war films are quite long, and this one to be only 85 minutes and pull off what it did was excellent. It's a great film, easily S tier. Fear and Desire was his very first film from 1954, I think, and my personal opinion is it's trash. I really didn't like it. I'm going to put it in the D tier. Again, this one only goes for like an hour, so it's got that going for it at least, but it really feels like a student film. It's very cheaply made, very poorly acted, and just dull and boring the whole time. There was nothing about the movie that I enjoyed, nothing that would make me want to revisit it or watch it again, but it was his first film, and he really significantly improved as a director after that movie onwards. There was a big jump in quality between that film and Killer's Kiss. But yeah, Fear and Desire is not a film I'd recommend to anyone unless you're going through his entire filmography and then maybe check it out, but don't expect anything great from it at all. Spartacus was his big sword and sandal epic that he did in 1960, another one that starred Kirk Douglas after they did Paths of Glory together. And this is a pretty good, pretty epic movie. I'm going to put it in the B tier, just there. I've got this one on 4K as well. And it's a pretty solid film. I think it's over 3 hours long. So it's very long, and a lot of the sword and sandal epics from the 60s were that, like, 3-4 hour long kind of movies like Ben-Hur and Lawrence of Arabia and that. And this is it's a pretty solid film. I remember enjoying it quite a bit, and even for its runtime and length, it wasn't very slow. It had a lot happening throughout the film, a lot of interesting characters and visuals. A lot of people put this film lower on the ranking, I think, just because it doesn't really feel as much like a Kubrick film, because it's more of a big kind of studio budget project, and he didn't I don't think he had any involvement in the writing or producing or anything. He was just directing this. But it still is a really solid film, and I would recommend it if you haven't seen it. And last but certainly not least, we have The Killing. This was his third film, and this is a massive improvement in quality here. I'm going to put this one up maybe in the third place even. I think The Killing is one of his best films. It's a really great, really tight, intense crime thriller. And again, it only goes for like 80 minutes. And I think Hayden Sterling is the character, or the actor who plays the main character in the film. He's really great here. It follows just a bunch of guys pretty much who are trying to rob this racetrack while this big race is going on. And it shows it from multiple points of view and through different time periods and things like that. And it's really tense and really good. Like I said, I have it on Blu-ray. with Killer's Kiss as well, and it's just a really solid, really great mid-50s kind of movie. It's more gritty and violent than a Hitchcock film of that era, and I think it kind of probably pushed the boundaries a little bit of violence in films at that time, with some of the kind of brutal killings and stuff. But it was a really great, really tense 80-minute thrill ride, and easily one of the most overlooked and underrated Kubrick films, in my opinion. I think with The Killing and Paths of Glory, he really kind of had this amazing 1-2 punch in the 50s after making two kind of average movies. So that's it, guys. That's my ranking of all of his films. Yeah, I've got them all on Blu-ray besides Fear and Desire and Doctor Strangelove. And I do enjoy all the S, A, and B tier films here, and would recommend them all. If you haven't seen The Killing or Paths of Glory, because they're two earlier ones that people don't talk about as much, I would definitely recommend them as well. Most people seem to have seen, you know, everything else throughout the 60s and 70s and 80s that he's done. But yeah, there's a few hidden gems in there still, I think. So thanks, guys, for watching this video. Please let me know your ranking below, subscribe, and I'll see you later. Bye.